I'm Dawn Hathcock. I'm Senior Vice President of the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I want to welcome everybody this morning and thank you for joining the call as we talk about marching on together and how we're going to adapt to this new normal, given the situation that we're all in. I know everybody's been really busy. Our team has been working very diligently to help try and move events so we don't lose them. I think everybody's doing that. We're also working on creative ways to move forward. It's no secret that lodgings tax collections are going to be way down, but I do believe that tourism is one way that we can pull our communities out of this very quick. We all know that tourism is economic development. I think everybody's seeing how important it is right now. And I want to read something to y'all that Brad Dean from Discover Puerto Rico wrote in a paper a few weeks ago, and it talks about tourism and why we do this. So travel and tourism is so much more than dollars and jobs. Travel enriches lives, celebrates culture, travel connects people, breaks down barriers, creates memories that will never be forgotten. Travel stimulates innovation, nurtures progress. Travel teaches, enlightens, and inspires. Studies show that travel makes you healthier, happier, and more productive. Travel and tourism is a force for good that transforms lives and communities. I think that kind of sums up why we do what we do and how important it is. And today I'm really excited that we have a lot of our local partners from Montgomery, but I'm also excited to welcome our state partners. Travel professionals from all over the state are joining us. And I think that speaks volumes about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Montgomery, we've been working for years with one of our speakers and a few less years with the other, but I think everybody knows Berkeley Young. Berkeley was with Young Strategies. We've been working with Berkeley for about 18 years with research and development for our community. Gina Stouffer with Lou Hammond Group. Gina, we've been working with Gina and her team for about 3.5 years, and they've helped us with PR, crisis management, and we've had great success in national media because of their group. I want you to know, if you have any questions, please type those in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Berkeley.
That's great. Thanks, Dawn. Hi, Montgomery. Hi, Alabama. It's good to be with you guys today. Certainly interesting times that we're in, and fair warning, I see no value in being pessimistic. I am an eternal optimist, and I am going to do my best to condense down some of the information and data that I'm seeing out there. Some new data came out just this morning, and so I'm trying to stay on top of all of that information for you and boil it down to what it means and how we get our businesses moving again. And I want to start with a note or kind of a simple story that my dad was born in 1922. Hard to believe if he was alive, he'd be 98 years old. And his childhood and teen years were living through the Great Depression, where there was daily sacrifice with rationing, etc. And then they went into World War II, and then it was blackouts and stay-at-home orders and continued rationing and struggles. In fact, he remembered that his family went 12 years without a new car. They had to keep their car moving. And it wasn't until 1949 that they got a ration stamp to allow them to get a new car. And so then he came home from World War II and was, after a few years, sent off to the Korean War. So he was about 34 years old before he really got his adult life started. And it had all been living through these various crises and events in his life. And so my dad was a born crisis manager and planner. He every time we went out to eat, he'd say, find the fire exit and plan your escape route. He always had cash on hand. He always gave us, as soon as we were old enough to have a wallet, he gave us $100 bill, said, now fold this up and hide it in your wallet. And that's there if you ever get into trouble and you need something. And then every time he'd see us, he'd say, show me the bill. And he wanted to make sure we hadn't spent that $100 bill. That was our insurance policy and our safety. And every time, I was the youngest of 5, every time one of us walked out the door, he said that famous phrase that so many of our parents said, it's be safe out there. It's not you I'm worried about, it's the other drivers. Well, there's the lesson for us. If you're 30 years old or younger, you've not lived through a downturn in the hospitality industry, because we've really been on an upswing since 2010. And coming out of 2008, 2009, it's been positive numbers since 2010. And so here we are facing this huge downturn, and it's giving us all an incredible challenge. And the fact is that we're all going to get through this together. And that's the theme of today's presentation, marching on together and what we're going to do. And so my belief is that, you pace yourself to run a race, and this is not a sprint. It's more than a marathon. It's a triathlon that we're going to be running. We're going to be swimming, we're going to be cycling, and there's going to be an obstacle course thrown at us constantly. That this is a very long race we're going through over the next year, and we're going to go through it together, and we're getting started on that race right now. Now, this chart shows consumer spending by industry, and this goes it's by week. And so you see in the first column is the first week of February, and then it goes through the end of March. And they haven't come out with April numbers yet. But what I want you to notice is the darkest reds that you see are the travel industry. You'll see airlines, you'll see hotel, motel, other transportation, recreation, travel agencies, restaurants, bars, are the industries the worst hit out of the whole economy. So we are in a very, very tough shape. And so other parts of the industry, other industries out there are doing okay. So we are the worst hit. And so I want you to keep in mind that there are some industries that are doing okay. And in fact, most hotel occupancy around the country, if you look at state averages, I'll show you those in a minute, are doing okay. And so as we look at these, we all know we're doing a lot of online shopping, and we are going to grocery stores and some retail stores and buying certain products and there's certain things in certain parts of the economy that are doing okay. So it's not doom and gloom for everybody, but we are the worst hit. And so we have to remember that there are segments out there that are willing to travel. And we have to stop looking at recovery like it's a full return to an old normal. That quit looking at it. When will we get back to normal? People ask me, when will we get back to normal? And my answer is, if we don't get through the next 2 months, who cares what's going to happen in 2021? We've got to take care of now. We've got to get some businesses working. We've got to start wading into the waters, getting some things back to a new normal and getting some business moving. And we have to do it in a safe and responsible way to inspire the single travel party visitation and avoid crowding. Our first priority is the safety and health of our citizens, which includes business owners and workers. So I love this quote from an Ohio hotelier. He said to me a few weeks ago, my primary concern is for the safety and health of my employees. If I keep them safe, I'm also protecting my guests and the citizens of our community. My employees are citizens who need to get back to work, and I'm not going to put anyone at risk in doing so. In every market around the country, we're seeing local citizens who want to demonize the travel industry, like we're going to bring in the virus into our communities. And so we have to alleviate that fear and help them understand that. In fact, I was on a call not too long ago with the retirement community in the mountains. And, they have done a full lockdown of all businesses, and it's to protect the retirees and the community. And so we have to make sure that we don't bankrupt our businesses, that we've got to find a way to protect our businesses, get people back to work while maintaining the health and safety of our citizens. And it can be done. Now, I started doing these presentations back in March, and what we saw was a timeline where, it was really about the 1st of March that panic started hitting the industry, and there were cancellations and events happening, and the pandemic being declared a state of emergency, people going into lockdown. And so March was really a time we were in phase one, which was just absolute shock that we were all packing up our offices and going home and working from home and shuttering our businesses. And by April, most of America was in some form of a stay-at-home order. There were a few states that weren't, but for most part, there was some level of social distancing, staying at home. And phase two was really a period of just shocking bad news that got worse daily. And staying at home, adjusting to this new norm. And it's interesting, during this period, if there was a canary in the coal mine that really was going to worry me, I was watching social media on as many channels as possible. And I was looking for anybody to start saying, wow, I love being at home. I'm not interested in travel again. And I don't think I saw one person say that. Everybody was posting constantly how miserable they were at home, how much they wanted to get back on the road and get out there. So that to me was a very important sign for our industry, saying that people want to go. So when we see sentiment surveys out there, every week there have been surveys asking people, what is your sentiment towards travel? People want to go if they feel safe. And that's what we have to pay attention to, that we have to, it's not enough. We used to say that we had to position and hook. It was all about giving them a reason to visit. Well, now we have to give them a reason to visit, give them the opportunity, and then we have to make sure that they feel safe in doing so, because that's where they will go. So right now, the drive market is doing much better than the fly market. People are starting to hit the road, but they're hitting the road, not the airways. And it's because it's really only the only people that are getting on airplanes are people that absolutely have to. So now we're starting this long triathlon with obstacle course that we're going on. We're beginning the journey, and we're getting partially opened, and we're getting back to work. And so let's look at what that looks like. So here's a map of southeastern United States showing which states as of this week are in some form of partial reopen. And it's most states. And then other states are holding off a little bit. And the thing about these orders is they can change in any given day. And I work with a client down in Florida, and we had a call on a Thursday afternoon planning for Florida to get reopened in 2 weeks, and boom, the governor did it surprise the next morning. And so governors do have the ability to change these orders. And so we have to remember that as they reopen, they could also do partial shutdowns based on where the hot spots are and where there are outbreaks of COVID-19 as we go forward. Now, this was a month ago. This was the first week of April. And you could see on this map, all that blue is states that were in the 20 to 25% occupancy a month ago. The red states were below 20%, and the green states were above 25%. what was driving that was really your interstate highway, select limited service economy class hotels, those 100-room or less hotels out on the highways, and in suburban areas. Your big convention hotels, for the most part, were completely shuttered, but it shows that trucking, construction, other things were driving some room nights all the way through this. Now look at a month later, everything in the orange yellow color is above 30%. And so this is, again, those economy class to select service mid-range hotels are driving the hotel economy right now, because there's still not gatherings happening in large conventions and convention center hotels. And so for the most part, and then the greens are those that are in the 25 to 30% range. So things are getting better in many cases out there, and people are starting to travel. So what's my forecast? What we've seen so far is that we have to pace ourselves based on the race we're running, and we all have to just go ahead and adjust that the next year is going to come with a lot of obstacles as we climb our way out, and we have to replace fear with confidence and optimism. And you know, my dad, who I started with, gave me this plaque, and it's been on my desk all along. And it says, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And because he had been through so much hardship through the Great Depression, World War II, et cetera, he really raised leaders to deal with crises. And this is when, you know, any old manager can run things in a great situation, but that we will prove our mettle in the way we lead through this crisis with confidence and optimism. Now, I see Memorial Day as a reasonable goal for some travel segments to be returning to normal. And it's primary that leisure drive market that's going to come back. And it's possible to have a decent summer season in the leisure drive market. That is not group, et cetera. I was on a call the other day with cities around the country, and the researcher for Orlando spoke up, and he said their convention business is absolutely shut down in Orlando till September 1st, but they've rebooked all of it September through December. And so he said, you literally cannot find space for a convention in Orlando September through December because they've rebooked it all. Disney announced yesterday that they would start taking reservations July 1st. And so right now they're saying they won't reopen until December 1st. But I guarantee you they're watching the news, and some of their parks are opening in limited ways. So it's all about rebooking that group business and then focusing on the fly markets for May and June to start getting people coming there. And also, don't get discouraged and shocked by setbacks. There will be setbacks. There will be, you know, we continue on with the number of cases in the United States. And so there could easily be outbreaks. And in fact, I'm watching Dr. Fauci just finish testifying before the Senate on his concern about, with so many people getting out, that there will be setbacks and more outbreaks. So I want to say this to you, that back in March, we threw the main circuit breaker. It was almost like the house got hit by lightning. We threw that main switch at the top to shut the whole house off. And as you know, when lightning hits your house, you then cut off all the other breakers down below so that you turn them on one at a time. You don't turn it all on at the same time. Well, it's the same thing here, that we'll go one breaker at a time, getting our industry. We're already back with some hotels hitting in the 30s and 40s. And, you know, certain hotels and markets, as you all know, and for the hoteliers on the call, if the market is doing 30%, well, some hotels are at 0 and others at 50, 60, 70. I mean, I know of certain hotels that are well placed near construction projects or highway projects, and they can be above 80% occupancy, but that is certainly on a very limited case basis. There will be outbreaks and hot spots as we go through the year. And so we have to constantly communicate very well what is the current situation and what are our safety standards that are in place. So as people go online and look, and they look at booking a reservation in your hotel, as they look on booking a reservation at your restaurant or finding what your operating hours are, they're looking for what you are doing to protect their safety and what practices you have in place to keep them safe. It's one of their top concerns right now. So be sure that you are communicating what you're doing to keep them traveling and safe. So we're already seeing truckers, essential business, construction, labor, finance, et cetera. They're out there moving around. The next wave will be RVs. You've got your own bathroom and kitchen on board. It's safe. And so RVs are hitting the road. In fact, if you went online and tried to rent an RV, they're all taken. That leisure drive market, what I call the get me out of this house market. There's a lot of people that just want to go. And I have a good friend who's in a compromised position. She's in poor health. And she says every day, I just want to get outside. I just want to get my toes in the sand. I want to hear a waterfall. And I think that's most Americans. They're eager to go. So there's lots of people, especially parents of teenagers, who want to get out of the house and hit the road and go somewhere. And any parent that's had to teach their child new math is really ready to get out of the house and go somewhere. So as we go through the summer, we'll see more announcements. We've already seen baseballs working on how they're going to come back. You've seen major tournaments and events rebooking and rescheduling into the later summer and fall. Small events are happening. And some people are having to reinvent their events so that they can continue. So, group tour and motor coach is one of the most challenged because it's a confined space in close quarters for many hours on a motor coach, and it's typically an older audience on those motor coaches. And so we have to support and help our motor coach industry that's so important to us in Montgomery and Alabama, and find ways to get that part of our market running again. So my message to all of you is be nimble, be creative, be resourceful, and be tenacious. I mean, we've got to be tough and be ready for the setbacks. Don't get shocked when it happens. Have a plan in place. We need to be all operating on plan A, plan B, plan C. If you're a Florida destination, or if you're down on the Alabama or Gulf Coast, you have a hurricane plan in place. You have hurricane plan A, hurricane plan B, hurricane plan C, on and on. You know what to do when it happens. So let's not be shocked. Let's all be prepared and navigate our way through. So the steps to recovery, we're well positioned in the Southeast, and people will come first and foremost for anything that's open air, outside, getting outside. So we have to work first on communicating within the local industry, local PR, social, digital, to make sure our citizens understand that we are a very caring industry that is caring for our employees and is caring for our citizens, and we're not going to do anything reckless or dangerous. Use your partners, work with those partners closely. You may have cut your advertising now, but I can assure you that all of your advertising vendors, your research vendors, your partners out there, you may not be writing us a check this month, but we're all happy to help in any way we can, because we need you back on your feet as businesses. We're all in this together. So focus on social and digital messaging and virtual experiences and partnership in every way to make it happen, and prepare and get ready, because now is time to start rolling out that message, especially as we're in these partial openings. We need to be communicating who we want to come, how we want them to come, and what we're going to do to keep them safe and healthy when they come to Montgomery and when they come to Alabama. And we have to make decisions on any summer events that haven't already been canceled or rescheduled. And that's strictly on a case-by-case basis. There's not a one-size-fits-all for events. And then we have to make sure we're rebooking that lost group business and being flexible in the way we do it to accommodate the visitors, the attendees, and the meeting planners. So what do we have to do to get open? Restaurants are learning every day new ways of doing business and how they're going to provide safe, efficient service. Hotels are doing the same, and you know, hotels are doing unheard of things, removing lobby furniture, breakfast area furniture, letting rooms sit idle for a few days and communicating that, changing the bedding, changing bath products, etc. I saw another day where a restaurant was putting shower curtains between the tables, and you know, just a simple way of making it visible that you're giving people extra isolation and protection so they can come. And attractions are also learning how to control the experience, control the entrance, and overall keeping people safe in every way is very, very important, because you don't want to be in the media is providing an unsafe experience. And so let's just learn. And here's one hint I learned in doing a number of these calls. Many of the chain affiliated, the brand affiliated hotels have access to supplies and products that some of the independent properties don't. And so I know when I was a hotelier, I was director of sales and general manager for a number of years. We all worked together and helped each other through tough times. And so I would encourage you to do the same, and the same in the restaurants, et cetera, is let's really practice good teamwork and help everybody get open and make sure everybody has the supplies, equipment, and facilities they need to get moving. So I'll leave you with this. It's time to embrace a new normal. Every week in 2020, that new normal will change. So there are going to be a lot of changes coming. And so we just have to work our way out of this. It's going to be slow and steady wins the game, folks. People will continue to travel. We're all addicted to travel. It's therapy. It's something we need. So do you think of yourselves as providing a therapeutic experience? Are we therapists? Are we giving travelers comfort and security when they come? And are we reminding our citizens and officials in our community our role as hospitality businesses, and who we are and what we mean to the spirit of the community? Is fear really an issue? I don't think so. I think it's more about safety, it's concern. And so we have to make sure, because people want to come, the desire to travel is there. And there's plenty of people in our drive markets. And so as long as we make them safe and communicate it well, so that when they're looking to book a reservation or book a room or buy tickets, that we're communicating at that point of sale how we're making them safe and providing a healthy environment, then we will get their business. So we have to communicate it thoroughly. And people ask me a lot, at what point will people crowd into theaters and crowd into cruise ships? Well, there's going to have to be some major steps towards vaccines and other things to get that level of safety there. But in the meantime, I think we all focus on it. It's almost like going up a staircase, and that's one of the top steps. So let's get up the first steps first, and remember that there's constant demand for anything outdoors, wide open spaces, patio dining. What can we do to get people out there and provide them with those great experiences? Because we all crave togetherness. We hate isolation. Everybody's miserable at their beautiful homes. everybody's ready to get out and go. So there'll definitely be a return. There's an immediate return to leisure travel, and there will definitely be a return to group gatherings as soon as we can make them feel safe in those group spaces. I hope you feel good about this. I'd love to feel great and feel like we could throw that main circuit breaker and we could all be back having huge crowds flood in, but that's not real. So we're going to get busy. We're going to get working and work our way through this over the next few months. And so I'm proud to be on your team. We had just started some research at the beginning of this year, working with Montgomery to develop new plans to bring more visitors. And well, we had an obstacle thrown in our way. And so we're working through it. But now I'm going to turn it over to Gina Stouffer, and Gina's going to tell you some of the great things that the Lou Hammond Group is doing to get us into this next step and bring visitors to Montgomery.
Thank you, Berkeley. Oh, monster. Here we go. All right. Hi, it's been such a pleasure working with you all, with Dawn and Meg on a daily basis, and with all of Montgomery's partners. And I'm just excited to go through this today and talk about how we're going to march on together. So, when the pandemic first happened, we certainly had to change all of our messaging. We stopped all of our promotional messaging and we shifted to more of that virtual, those feel-good stories. So throughout the past few months, we've been in touch with local, regional, and national media daily, but sharing messaging to keep people engaged with Montgomery. We also look at a three-phased approach to handling this crisis situation. The first, our timing's a little bit different than Berkeley's from a PR standpoint, but the first phase is the sheltering at home phase, which is similar. Phase 2 is the preparation to return to travel. That is where we are right now, working on content development. And then phase 3 is that return to travel that we're excited about making happen. So phase 1 objective was mainly to keep Montgomery top of mind with potential future visitors, residents, all those moms at home who have been homeschooling and working at the same time. We all I graduate second grade this week as well. Our phase 1 strategy, when we were speaking with the media, they said, we need good news stories. We want to make our readers feel good about, what's happening in the country, how people are working together for good. And Montgomery had no shortage of options. Every day, Meg would send us even, new programs that people in Montgomery were working together to make happen, from Cahaba House transforming into a bodega. We have a story coming out soon in Nation's Restaurant News, a case study on that. Prevail Union Coffee Shop, working with healthcare workers. We had some local businessmen being innovative with, app launches. The Chamber got together with the Air Force to do a special challenge. Hyundai came forth with testing resources, Tech MGM. I mean, everyone was working together in Montgomery, and we got some really great coverage from that. We also had some terrific virtual experiences that a lot of our cultural partners created. So Alabama Shakespeare Festival's The Play On campaign was so cool. The Museum of Fine Arts also did some online programming, and we kept The coverage, we kept the pitches out there. We received some great coverage on the Play On campaign from Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And then Blake Guthrie came out with his feature piece on Montgomery around the same time. And here's just a couple of examples of some business press that we were able to achieve on behalf of you all, our partners, being innovative and working together. So now we are in phase 2. We're still pitching out all the good news, but we're also working on our launch recovery plan. And so, you know, with public relations, every destination has to focus on what they're best at. Some destinations, it might be food and beverage, others it's outdoor adventure. Well, Montgomery is known for civil rights, social justice, travel, and that's inspirational, particularly during this time when we've all been, you know, into forced isolation. We want to interact with humans and we want to be inspired. And there are, you know, from Martin Luther King Jr. to Rosa Parks to Brian Stevenson and Mayor Reed. These are people who inspire or have inspired others. And so we would like to tie that in with an inspirational campaign called Together We Can Be the Change. You know, we've had a lot of time to reflect on who we are and what we're doing and what are our priorities. And we think this campaign can inspire travelers, both from people that have been working in Montgomery, but inspire you to be the change in your own community as well. So with this campaign, we are going to be putting together some special travel itineraries and suggestions for our travelers. First, starting out with local and drive market travelers. Specific restaurant content dealing with for Together We Can Be the Change, and then hotel packages and special offers. So we'll be reaching out to you all, our accommodations partners, to participate in this campaign. And with all messaging, as Berkeley's highlighted, we do need to talk about the safety and security of our travelers, and so that will always be a you know, kind of the opening part to all the messaging that we're getting out to the media. Other things that we can do, working with Alabama Shakespeare Festival, Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts, those cultural tie-ins, the tech industry, which is so innovative and active here in Montgomery. We'll be working with them. We're putting together some promotional videos to support the campaign, and then reaching out to potential guests through a social media contest. In addition, we're also working on some pitches for the media, tying in with post-COVID travel. So social distance requirements and how Montgomery can fit into our new normal. The Blount Cultural Park fulfills that. So do all the great outdoor activities that you can do in Montgomery. And then with golf, that's probably the one sport, if the golf courses were open in your communities throughout the pandemic, that's probably the only sport that people have been able to play. I encourage, if they haven't already, the golf industry to jump on this, because this golf has been one of the is a great social distance sport. People are in, you know, walking, or they're playing in separate carts. Well, we have access to one of the most famous golf trails, probably the most famous golf trail in the country. So we need to be reaching out to the golf media as well. And then staycation opportunities. You know, when you live in a vacation destination, a lot of times you don't take advantage of the things that are in your own backyard. There might be some new hotels or new attractions, new restaurants that you just haven't had the time to take. And, you know, we're all tired of our own cooking and our own homes. So why not look at a staycation as a way to get away? And again, it's therapy, even if it's just 5 minutes away from your house. So we'll be looking into some fun staycation opportunities too. And we'll also be gathering all the news when Montgomery is ready to reopen. We will have that news available for the media. We'll also have as I mentioned, the safety measures that have been taken, and then tying in with economic development and placemaking, which is what we're doing with Montgomery as well, tying in how important the smart city offerings are. Enhance Montgomery experience. And then phase 3 that's when we roll out the red carpet and get these visitors back to Montgomery. We will look, it'll probably be later this summer. It all depends on the timing, but we'll launch a welcome back weekend. And we'll work with city partners to come together and encourage special offers and promotions. That's when we'll introduce our staycation promotion, as well as our regional and national pitch campaign. We've been talking about the drive market, 1-2 tank trips. I think Lou Hammond, my boss, is a firm believer that it's going to be four tank trips. I mean, people will be coming from further away than typically drive. And so, even with Montgomery, we're on the way to the beach for people coming even from the Midwest. So why not have them stop and be inspired and enriched before they head to the sand. Also, economic development, again, there'll be a story of resilience. There always is in Montgomery, and we look forward to telling that story. And then we'll be looking to bring down media. I was just in touch with a columnist for Gannett newspapers on Friday night, talking about what is going on in our country and how Montgomery fits into that picture. And she is so anxious. As soon as we're ready, she's so anxious to come and visit and do a story. We also have a writer from Boston Globe that was scheduled to come down in March, and he's anxious to come down as well. So there is pent-up demand among travelers, but also among the travel media. They're ready to get out and go. They're not used to being home for this long. And so we intend to take full advantage of that. And then certainly down the road, when New York opens up more, we'll be looking to do some media tours, both with Dawn and Meg from the Chamber, and then also bringing our mayor up to tell the story of Montgomery. Target media remains the same. We're going after all this, the short leads, the long leads, bloggers, social media influencers, niche publications, business. And we're really excited. We think we've had a lot of content to talk about, but we're excited to start putting some cool programs together to engage the media, thus encouraging visitation to Montgomery in the coming months. So thank you very much. Now I think we want to open it up to questions.
Let's see. I do not see any questions in here at this point. And Meg, I don't know if you see any questions.
Boy, Dawn, your microphone's really breaking up. The sound is really goofy.
Uh-oh.
But, and Gina, I appreciate your presentation so much. And, and one thing I know I forgot to mention is the ridiculously low price of gas that is going to, normally in May, AAA is being asked about how the price of gas will impact travel over the summer. And that is certainly not a consideration this year, because we're seeing some of the lowest gas prices in years. And there we go. I see a question in from Patty Culp. Patty's asking, any idea how safe the convention market will be by late summer, August specifically? And Patty, I'll tell you we are working hard. As you know, I'm the provost of the Southeast Tourism Society Marketing College. We normally have over 300 people that attend that, and it's the last week of July, and we currently have over 130 registered, and so we are proceeding. We're working to have that. We know that we're going to have to adjust the layout and the class size and the classrooms we use to provide safe social distancing. And we're also knowing that if there's flare-ups and outbreaks, I mean, because that's a gathering that people come from 14 states. And so, you know, one state could be on a stay-at-home order. So we could be in the situation of saying that the other states can come, but one state can't send their people because of the stay-at-home order. So, you know, I think that small meetings will start happening, and then we'll be wading our way into the waters in terms of convention and meetings, and certainly in Alabama y'all have some that's a big part of your market with a lot of big hotels, and so we have to you know, work the smaller, and then we also have to communicate how we're going to safely start hosting larger groups. I know that one of our big travel industry conferences, ESTO, you saw, well, Destinations International has canceled their annual meeting that was mid-July, and it was in Chicago. ESTO is at this point planning to continue. It's the last week of August. Last year they had 1,200 people in Austin, Texas. This year they're doing it in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they're planning, they're assuming that they'll be lucky if they have 300 to 400 people come to that, because it's a travel industry conference and so many people have cut budgets. In fact, I just saw this morning that Las Vegas furloughed or fired 77% of their staff at the CVB. Now, their CVB had a staff of 240 people. So significant. They're the largest DMO in the world as far as I know. And so the travel industry is impacted, and so are our conferences. So Patty, I would also say to that the convention market will depend on the industry that it's coming from, and the size of the gathering and the ability of the hotel and convention space to gather the people. And my guess is that you know, if we used to pack people in to a room in 8 tops, as we say, that 8 tops may become 4 tops, and the tables may be spaced out more and the room may be twice as big, so that people are not jam crowded in together. So with that, I see the next question from Pam Mashburn is, how is Montgomery doing with conventions and meetings? So Dawn, do you want to address that?
Sure. Pam, we have obviously lost some conventions. We have not lost all of them. They are not canceled throughout the end of the year. We've been able to move some of them to 3rd and 4th quarter right now. We're working very closely with all the hotel and convention staff members to readjust as many schedules as we can. Some of the conventions, based on their bylaws, they have to meet in a certain month. So some have had to cancel. Others are trying to postpone or put it later in this year or even move to next year. But you know, right now I know there's groups booked in August, September, October, November, December. I'm not sure about July right now. I think there are still some set up for July. So I think it's one of those, everybody's just kind of watching every day to see what's happening in the market and where we are.
And I love the question that came in from James Weddle. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
Related to people driving to the beach. And that's always, you know, you're at the confluence of 2 highway systems, and So sure, you get a lot of rooms off of the highways. And so communicating to people, and you can use everything from billboards to geofencing with social media platforms, et cetera, to communicate to people how to feel safe. Dawn, you want to add to that? Gina?
No, I think you answered that. We have another question. Andrea Diggs was asking how businesses can get in touch if they want to be part of the Welcome Back weekend. And we'll be sending communication out to all the partners, talking about the opportunity. And then, once we hear back, then we'll work out programs with each person individually and make sure that you're included in all of our materials, our marketing materials. So thank you, Andrea.
Well, and Patty's replied that the governor's conference will happen in August. And if I know Patty, it'll happen in August. At the lodge at Gulf State Park, they're going to use outdoor spaces and spread out as much as possible. And so, I share Patty's enthusiasm. I mean, with Marketing College, I just think it's an important signal to the industry that we not cancel. It's the end of July, and by jingo, we're going to make it happen, and we're going to do it in a safe, responsible way. And so, I think it's an opportunity for our industry to show how resilient and how flexible we are, and that we will do whatever it takes to make things happen. And so, and in that case, we host that at a university campus, and we're having a real problem because the whole Georgia university system is shut down. And so we're going to have Marketing College, and we're going to make it happen one way or another, no matter what obstacles are thrown at us. And I would encourage you all to be as resourceful with your clients in rebooking their business. And gosh, let's figure out how to work with the motor coach and group tour industry it is, those guys are suffering terribly, and we need to help them and figure out how to get that market working again also.
Berkeley and Gina, Pam Swanner has a question regarding the rural back road strips. And what's the recommendation on best platform and advertising for those rural chambers, tourism offices who operate with limited budgets, in some cases no budgets? I don't know which one of you wants to take that.
One idea, Lou and I were talking about this the other day, is developing, so we're talking about road trip itineraries. So if there are destinations that you could partner with to create an itinerary from a market, that would be a good way to, to kind of increase your voice. And I'm all about public relations, so certainly getting that out to the media in those direct drive markets that you're shooting for. But I've seen where a few destinations have partnered together to create those itineraries and those experiences. So I would recommend that.
Absolutely, and Gina and I would add to that as an industry, we are only as strong as our weakest link. And so we all need to bond together and help our smallest businesses, our smallest destinations, and do everything we can to cross promote and work together. And our advertising partners are well positioned to do that and help us. And so everything we can do to put out the stories to help people find those back road experiences, because right now the price of gas is right for people to drive. The desire is there. People want to drive. And so it's just a matter of getting the message out and how we can get them to hit the back roads, to explore some of these things, provide safe distancing when they do, and then get them to a safe and comfortable place to spend the night. And so partnership is absolutely critical to that success. And we all need to help each other. I started in this industry in a county next to Asheville, North Carolina. And we were a tiny little county with a tiny little budget compared to Asheville. And you know, from day one, Asheville, I was doing a startup tourism office in this small rural county. And Asheville took me under their wing and helped me every way spread my message. And so regional partnership is critical to success. And so we all have to help each other for sure.
Miss Wanda from Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist Church is talking about phase 1 here in Montgomery of reopening. Venues are asking guests to wear are venues asking guests to wear masks, and should they have masks on hand if people don't have one?
Yes, and so everything we can do to provide and encourage, and that's what's causing some of the fights that you see in the news is when you just turn people away. But I actually think that situation is going to take care of itself because a lot of people are getting out for the first time now. And so as the weeks progress, people are going to get more used to having masks with them, having backup masks, having extra masks. The airlines just announced yesterday, because they got some bad press for not requiring masks, and now they're going to start requiring masks. And so I actually think logo masks are going to be the new giveaway that people are going to figure out how to produce masks to encourage people to wear. And so I think people are just, you know, as Americans, we're independent in our spirit, and we don't want to be told we have to do something. But I think this is a situation that we're learning. If that's what it takes to get out, is putting on a mask, we'll do it.
Right.
And so if you can have some to provide to people, that would be a good thing. And I know they're hard to come by now.
Well, Meg said to Ms. Wanda and anyone else looking to source masks that she'll be sending a follow-up email for this webinar and posting it on the site. So places where you can get masks.
That's great. Thank you for that.
We've got a question from Ron Simmons from our staff, and he says, do you believe that national conventions will find it more difficult to have their large meetings due to the fear of air travel? If so, will these groups consider smaller meetings, regional meetings versus national meetings?
What we're seeing right now, Ron, is, you know, like Destinations International canceled their annual meeting in Chicago that's over 1,600 people, and they're doing it through Zoom and other things. And you know, that was a July meeting. I think that national meetings, it depends on the size. That if it's an issue of trying to figure out how to break into regional meetings for a group that large, I don't know so much. But I do think that you'll see more groups doing regional meetings and changing the size. But I also think that the air travel, I saw an interview this morning with the new chairman of Boeing, and I say new because we all know Boeing's had some struggles and some leadership change. And you know, and one of his key points was it's kind of the too big to fail thing, that Boeing and all of these airlines, they've got to get it together, and they've got to do what it's going to take. And you know, you'll hear they're saying they're not selling the center seat on airplanes, and then people are getting on planes and every seat is sold. And so some of the airlines as of today are saying, okay, we really mean it. We're really not going to sell the center seat, and we're really going to give you masks. And they're going to talk more about how they're sterilizing the planes and air filtration, et cetera. And so, very long-winded answer, Ron, I think within a month time, we're going to be more comfortable with air travel. But now, so here's the issue with Esto in Grand Rapids. That was going to be 1,200 people for a nationwide meeting flying in to Grand Rapids. Well, Grand Rapids, Delta, American, United, each used to have 4 or 5 flights a day. They're each down to 1 flight a day. So then even if the planes are safe and it's okay and we feel better about it, will there be enough flights to get that many people in and out of the destination in the first place? And that was one of the conversations, because they said, well, what if we shorten the meeting by one day to make it more affordable for people? And the destination said, well, you still won't be able to, if you ended at lunchtime on Tuesday, nobody will be able to fly out till Wednesday anyway, because we don't have any afternoon flights at this point. So it's just that it's hard to give you a set answer for all national conventions. It'll be on a case by case basis, and there's so many variables playing in, but I do know we're all going to get creative to hold on to every piece of business we can.
We've got a question about Montgomery has a lot of school groups and field trips. And the question is, have we heard anything from state education as to what will happen with those for next year? We have not at this time. I think, again, it's changing as we go daily, as we all know. So we're kind of working through that. I think if you do see those, they'll change in the way they do them. So I think it won't be what we've been used to in the past. But we are still waiting to see what happens. And obviously they're waiting to see about school start and that kind of thing. So we'll stay in touch on that one. All right. I don't think we have any more questions. So I want to thank everybody. And I would like to remind our Montgomery hoteliers that if before we went into our stay-at-home mode, if you got the visitor profile study from Young Strategies, I would encourage you to please go ahead and fill that out based on pre-COVID. We want to make sure that we know who our visitors were, so we can go after them and know who to target moving forward. And if you have not filled those out, if you need the link again, we'll be glad to send that out. You can just reach out to us and let us know. But I want to thank Berkeley and Gina for their time. I want to thank all of you for your time. And I want everybody to stay safe. And if there's nothing else, we want you to have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.